Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I have an awesome video here for you. In case you missed it, it was on all the national news channels. This one I got from Fox Live Now or something like that. It was on Forbes. It was on all these other different networks. This is RFK in West Virginia talking to the governor there. The governor is going to do some major sweeping changes to the health system there. Listen to what he mentions in this speech.
I got to know, I said to Dr. Morris, or Governor Morrissey, the first time I saw him, I said, "You look like you ate Governor Morrissey." and there was a lot of talk about getting healthy again, and I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer. And I am going to put him on a really rigorous regimen, and we're going to put him on a carnivore diet.
You hear that? They're going to put him on a carnivore diet. Now, like I said, this is on national TV here. The carnivore diet's getting extremely popular because, not because it's a fad, because it works. There are literally tens of thousands of carnivores now that have switched from the standard American diet or from a vegan vegetarian type diet like I was on. These people, like myself, cured themselves from all these chronic issues that they were having. And it's just an absolutely wonderful diet to be on, this whole food diet. Let's continue on here.
Food is medicine. It treats us in different ways, and it treats our health. It treats our mental health. There was a recent study that showed that when they switched the diet in prisons, that violence went down to a whole food diet. That violence went down by about 70%. When they switched the diet in juvenile detention centers, the whole food diet, violence went down 100%.
Incredible.
There's a scientist at Harvard now who is curing schizophrenia with a carnivore diet.
You hear that? Curing schizophrenia with a carnivore diet. This is why people that go on a carnivore diet, like I've said in my testimony when I talked about when I went on a carnivore diet, I felt a sense of calm coming over me. I wasn't all anxious about stuff and worried all the time. I lost my deep depression that I had. It's gone, completely gone. The fat, the fatty acids, the cholesterol, all that gives nutrition to the brain like it's supposed to, and your nervous system. So this is amazing. Let's keep listening here.
You know, when I was a kid, diabetes rates in children were almost zero. Juvenile diabetes, a typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his lifetime over a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is pre-diabetic or diabetic.
It's insane.
38% of teens are now diabetic, 50% of adults. A few years ago, it's not a mystery about where this is coming from. 20 years ago, there was no diabetes in China. Today, 50% of the population is diabetic. Why is that? They built 20,000 fast food joints in China and started selling American processed food.
Junk.
And it is costing us, we are now paying more just for diabetes, mitochondrial dysfunction, than we are for our military. And, you know, financially, it is bankrupting our country. We're now spending more to service our debt, and the biggest piece of that debt is coming from healthcare. We're now paying more to service it than we are for our military budget.
Incredible. Unbelievable. We went from a doctor seeing maybe one case of a child having diabetes to now like 1 in 3. That is insanity. And most people walk around like, duh, I don't know what's going on. It's the damn food. It's all the sugar and the sodas, the processed junk that everybody's eating. Let's continue.
When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans had chronic disease. We spent zero on chronic disease in this country. Zero. There was no medications for it. Today we spend $1.3 trillion on chronic disease every year. It's about 90% of our healthcare budget.
Can you believe that? 90% of our health budget. You know, once you see what's going on, it blows you away. It just blows you away.
For most of my life, the Republicans and Democrats have been fighting about a health care plan, about treatment, really a sick care plan, about how to treat all this illness.
Yeah.
Should it be Obamacare, the affordable health plan? Should it be public-private partnerships? Should it be a single payer? These are what the big battles that you read about on Capitol Hill. The real battle is that we're getting sicker and sicker every year. And it's really just a debate about who's going to pay the treatment. Nobody has been focused on how do we get ourselves less sick.
Yeah.
And it's like moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. No matter what you do, our country is going to go bankrupt.
Exactly. Everybody's worried about how we're going to pay for all this, when we should be concerned about, we need to stop this. We need to stop this now. And now it's hard, you can tell people until you're blue in the face to start eating healthy, and they probably won't do it, most people. But if you take the junk out of the junk food, it might not be so bad, you know? Let's continue.
So the loneliness, the dispossession, the crisis that we have in mental health, in suicide, in ADD, ADHD, all of these are linked, and particularly to the dyes. It's very clear the dyes that Governor Morrissey is banning, all of them are linked in very, very strong studies to ADHD and to cancers. So we're seeing an explosion of cancers in this country. Mm-hmm. We're seeing an explosion in infertility. Teenagers today have 50% of the sperm count and 50% of the testosterone of 68-year-old men. Girls are now reaching puberty 6 years earlier than they're supposed to.
Incredible. Between
10 and 13 years old. Other countries are not experiencing this. We've seen autism rates go from 1 in 10,000 when I was a kid, 1 in 10,000, 1 in every 36 kids today, 1 in 22 boys in California. And the obesity rates have gone up to, as I said, 50% in adults, or 70% overall obesity or overweight, from 3%. In Japan, it's still 3%, because they're not eating these foods. They have nutrition programs in the foods where they have a nutritionist in every school who's in charge of the menu, and they eat healthy foods, so they don't have these illnesses. And we, when I was a kid, we were the healthiest, most robust people in the world. And today we're the sickest. 60% of Americans, from 3% when my uncle was president, 60% today have chronic disease. And it's not happening in other countries. During COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in this country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. So we literally did worse than any country in the world. And when you ask CDC why are Americans dying from COVID at higher rates than any place on earth when we have all the money, they said, well, it's not our fault. It's because Americans are so sick. That is their fault. And we're going to change that. But they said that according to
Yep.
according to CDC, the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So they had diabetes, they had obesity, and maybe asthma and one other thing. And it was the chronic disease really that was killing them. Healthy kids were not dying. Healthy Americans were not dying of COVID. It was a disease that attacked the sick. And that's true with all infectious diseases. If we can make ourselves, the biggest thing that we can do for pandemic preparedness is to make ourselves healthy again. We're now 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service because of chronic disease. So this is affecting our national security. It's destroying our economy. It is existential for this country.
Think about that. 74%, 3/4 of these young adults cannot join the military because they don't qualify because they got all these chronic issues and diseases, overweight. That's crazy. That is crazy. We went from almost no chronic diseases back when I was a kid to, 1 in 3 having diabetes, and it's just crazy, crazy.
And I want to commend Governor Morrissey not only for his vision but for his courage, because it's very, very hard. And for these legislatures who are pushing this bill, all of them are getting calls every day from the big soda companies, the sugar soda and the fake food companies. We're not eating food, we're eating food-like substances.
Right.
And I'll tell you what happened. I was involved in the tobacco litigation back in the late 1980s. And the tobacco companies were, at that time, the cash richest companies in the world. But they saw the writing on the wall. They saw that the consumer base was turning against them. People were stopping smoking, and that they were being prosecuted and sued successfully. So they settled those lawsuits, but they also started shifting their resources to diversify their companies. And they went out and they bought the food companies. So by 1994, the two biggest food companies in the world were R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, tobacco companies. They took about 10,000 scientists who were all engaged in nefarious ways to make tobacco more addictive, and they put them to work making food addictive.
You see that? Now we got tobacco companies owning these big junk food companies, and they're hard at work making you addicted to this junk and feeding all the disease and lining the pockets of the pharmaceuticals. That's what's going on.
They added sodium and sugar. Sugar is as addictive as crack, and it's almost as bad for you.
Yep.
It kills you just as surely, it just kills you a little slower. It feeds tumors, it destroys your body, it destroys your brain. And they added more and more sugar to make us addicted to their products. And these companies are now, just like the tobacco companies were, are flooding into the offices of your state leaders and legislatures of the governor. And they're telling him he's making a big mistake. They're telling him that they're going to stop writing checks, that they're going to run people against them, that they're going to destroy their political careers. And Governor Morrissey was telling me that he met with the soda companies this week, and they said to him, you need to be educated about this. And they said, food stamps is not a nutrition program. He came in with his Diet Coke, and he said, is there anything nutritious in here? And they were like, no, of course not. But food stamps is not a nutrition program. And he said, it's called SNAP, Supplementary Nutrition Assistance Program. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be nutrition. It's not supposed to be food-like substances that are actually poisoning us. And so, but it takes a lot of courage to stand up to these companies the same way that it did to stand up to big tobacco. But these men and women, your leaders, Governor Morrissey, is standing up for you. And we all need to stand up for ourselves and take care of ourselves. It's an act of patriotism.
Yep.
If you love this country, you need to start taking care of yourselves. And I want to I also say this, that food companies all came and met with me 2 weeks ago. And they're scared of me, but they're more scared of Governor Morrissey. Because what they said, and the reason they said, well, tell us what you want, we're going to do it. And they said, but stop these governors from passing these laws. Because we don't want a patchwork where West Virginia and California are banning food dyes. And we have to make special products for those states. So they're terrified of this, of what you're doing. And the message that I want to give to the country today and to all the other governors is get in line behind Governor Morrissey and apply for a waiver to my agency, and we're going to give it to you. But that's the way we're going to win this.
Yeah, these tobacco companies now turn food companies, adding the amount of sugar that they're adding to the foods and foods in general, the sodas and all the junk that they create. Sugar feeds cancer. If you have cancer, you have to completely eliminate all carbohydrates from your diet. That's why the carnivore diet is so successful at treating illnesses like that. Not to mention just about everything else. Sugar is the cause of everyone's illness, whether it's in the form of plain cane sugar, carbohydrates, starchy foods, potatoes, rice, and pastas. Sugar feeds cancer. Cancer needs two things to grow: is sugar and L-glutamine, which is an amino acid. Who was it? Dr. Friedman, I think is. Yeah, Dr. Friedman said, if you have cancer, eliminate all carbohydrates and fast. Do a lot of fasting during this time. The fasting will keep your body from getting L-glutamine from your diet, which is an amino acid. And the carnivore diet eliminates all carbohydrates. You're starving the cancers that way. But these food companies know that all these sugars are making everybody sick and miserable and addicted, number one. And because they're sick and addicted, they're feeding and lining the pockets of the pharmaceutical companies. They're trying to so-called treat these diseases, these chronic diseases, which is just caused by your diet. The constant eating of sugar, refined carbohydrates, which is the same thing, grains. They always tell us, oh, we have to eat grains and stuff. And this stuff is garbage. It'll make you sick and diabetic, and give you that spare tire around your waist, basically. Visceral fat. There's really nothing good about grains. I know people have ate it throughout the ages, but it wasn't because it was because basically it was a starvation food to keep you from starving to death. That's all it was for. People, even biblically, they would slaughter a calf or an animal in their herd and feast on it, and that was the meal. And in between then, yes, they would eat grains and stuff, but it was always the meats that they would eat. All right, guys, I hope you found this. Hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be some big changes coming in our health system and our food companies. Read the labels. Personally, I don't think there's anything we buy with a food label anymore. I did in the beginning. If you're buying sausages and stuff like that, they're going to have a food label. Make sure there's just food in there and nothing else. No natural flavors and any of that garbage. I did a video on the natural flavors, and I'm going to put that right up here. But yeah, if the food that you're eating has an ingredients label on it, I'm sorry, you know, you're not eating real food. Eat real food, meat. And if you're going to eat some vegetables, eat some vegetables, but real whole food vegetables. Personally, carnivore, ketovore, meat and a little bit of vegetables, and keto is the only real way to eat, personally, what I think. Number one would be carnivore, and then ketovore and keto would be the third. If you're not eating that way, you know, I don't know. It's just a matter of time that this processed food and fast foods and junk food is going to get you. It will get you. When you're young, we can handle that better. You know, our body's stronger, and the tissue is young, and it can handle this processed stuff and get rid of most of it. But as we get older, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, and up, not so much. Not so much. All right, guys. Hope you like this video. Big changes coming in our in the health system here, and in the companies making these poison food dyes and seed oils and just refined carbohydrates and chemicals they're putting in our food. There's going to be some big changes, and I hope they come soon. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.